some appreciation. This is fantastic. Sitting in the temple room, giving Srimad Bhagavatam class, just gazing at Prabhupada's image here in his Murti form. Very nice. And I hope you all from Gainesville are enjoying the weather in Houston. Shortly after you leave, it's going to be sunny in the 70s. And so this is a reception for, tapasya. And humid too. So here's the topic, mutually supportive roles of Srinam and Srimad Bhagavatam. Was requested by Kalakantra Prabhu specifically for the visiting devotees from Gainesville, something that's practical. For me, this is something practical. So here's the topic. You'll see this image, a modified version of the image, these two, the Hare Krishna mantra and the top part of the graphic here, and the bottom is Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 cover. You'll see this again. So it's the mutually supportive roles of these two. We'll start with Nectar Devotion, or Rupa Goswami's writing, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he describes there are 64 items of bhakti recommended, and of those 64, 5 are most potent. Specifically, he explains that if you do any one of them without offense, bhava bhakti will happen at once. Those little problems with those offenses, but very potent forms. And these 5, 2 of them are the Bhagavatam and the Holy Name, and there's 3 more. And one of them is worshiping the deity form of the Lord. Another is Vaishnav Seva, serving the devotees of the Lord. And the 5th one is living in a holy place like Houston or Gainesville. Or if you can't live in Vrindavan, you can, in your mind, your heart and your mind are in Vrindavan, the holy Dham, those 5. And they're complementary. Here's a nice little image of a set of steps. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is feeling ecstasy and anticipation of being connected with Radha and Krishna. Of course, he is Radha and Krishna combined, but that's his mood of love. There's a nice verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that teaches this. The translation reads, "The power of these 5 principles is very wonderful and difficult to understand. Even without faith in them, a person who is offenseless can awaken his dormant love of Krishna simply by being a little connected with them." Sounds like us, right? A little connected with them. Some faith, but very powerful. And 2 of these are especially highlighted. Here in Antya Lila, of the 9 processes of devotional service, the most important is to always chant the holy name of the Lord. If one does so, avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses, one very easily obtains the most valuable love of Godhead. That's the goal. That's where the train is going once you get on the train, love of Godhead. And the chanting of the holy name is especially beneficial. Notice there's 2 keys there, not just 1. So there are these 2. There's the holy name, and there's also the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the concluding chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, this glorification is stated. This Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedanta philosophy because its subject matter is the absolute truth, which, while non-different from the spirit soul, is the ultimate reality, one without a second. The goal of this literature is da, 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 exclusive devotional service unto that supreme truth. So you get on board the train, that's where the train is going. The Srimad Bhagavatam train and the chanting of the holy name combined. According to Jiva Goswami, he's one of my heroes, so to speak. He explains very elaborately and very convincingly that the Vedas have many divisions. The Vedas are infallible because they come directly from the infallible. But topmost amongst all of those infallible Vedas, the ripened fruit of the desire tree of the Vedas is Srimad Bhagavatam. That's a whole discussion, but it's the best. It's the ripened fruit, it's the cream, it's superlative, the spotless Purana. And these two, as you see in the image down at the bottom, or in the center there's the Maha Mantra. And over on the right side, that's the Bhagavatam. And they both lead to Krishna. They're mutually supportive. They both have the same destination. Here's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, always discuss Srimad Bhagavatam and constantly chant the holy names of Lord Krishna. In this way, you'll be able to attain liberation very easily. And you'll be elevated to the enjoyment of love of Godhead. Now, there's some steps, but you take the steps and you get to the destination very easily. The next image is this one. This is a nice painting showing or illustrating from the Padma Purana. Some of you are newer and you don't know the names of all these literatures, but you'll get the gist as we go along. The Padma Purana, Mode of Goodness Purana, has a whole section. We're going to hear from a section of that. It just glorifies the Bhagavatam. And in that glorification of the Bhagavatam, it describes the Bhagavatam is the form of the Lord. The first two cantos are his lotus feet, as you see in the painting. And then next, his thighs and his legs and his waist and his chest and his smiling face, the 10th canto, and so forth. The Bhagavatam is the form of the Lord. Now, we heard 2 days ago, the name also has form, and here the Bhagavatam has form, and they go together. One assists one another. Within the Bhagavatam, again and again and again, there's names. And we're going to hear now a section, names of Krishna. And we're going to hear just a few, being sensitive to there are newer people here. And of course, there's very senior people here and everyone in between. But for the very newer people, just a little message. We're going to go at like 35,000 feet and look down and get a landscape of how the Bhagavatam glorifies chanting. And these are very essential verses. And when those of you that are familiar, you'll recognize the verses right away. Those of you that are newer, as you hear them again and hear them again and hear them again and hear them again, it starts to emerge like a little sprout coming out of a seed, and then it becomes a plant, and then it becomes flowers and fruits. So just hear, if you're newer, just hear the verses, appreciate. These are core foundational verses from the Bhagavatam speaking about the glories of the holy name. So here we go. This is a reference in Bhakti Sandarbha to one of the verses in 11th canto, where it is said, For the conditioned souls wandering in this world, that's us, there is no greater attainment than Sankirtan, from which one obtains bhakti with mind fixed on the Lord, and by which samsara is destroyed. Sounds good. We're certainly in the category of conditioned souls wandering in this world. And if we want the greatest attainment, there's no greater attainment than what we were just doing, the Sankirtan. And then you'll also hear just hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam like we're doing. These are some key verses. Here's another. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death, that's us, can be freed immediately or quickly, by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna. That sounds like us. Which is feared by feared personified. The painting, particularly for the newer devotees, this is a depiction from Canto 6, where there was a Brahmana who got deviated by association with a prostitute, and his whole life became terrible. Sinful, murderer, thief, this and that, to maintain his prostitute girlfriend and the children produced from her. And at the end of his life, guess what? He was responsible for all those sinful activities. And so those guys on the right side, those were the Yamadutas, they came to take his soul and his subtle body out of the gross body to the court of Yamaraj for sentencing. However, unintentionally, not intending to call the Supreme Lord Narayan, he called the name of his son, who he had named Narayan. It's called Abbas, or shadow chanting, Abbas Nam, Nam Abbas. And even that shadow, those personalities there on the left side, the Vishnudutas, they came and stopped the Yamadutas. Stop! Who's ever stopped death? Who are you? Anyway, this is a nice discussion about the theology of the holy name. I mentioned this the other day. So, even by unconsciously or unintentionally, that's a particular type of Abbas. Sanketa, we'll see the verse shortly. Sanketa, unintentionally. He meant to call his son. Wasn't intending to call this, help me. He's calling his son. But he called the name. There it is. Sanketya. There's the very verse. One who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, in this case, his son, jokingly, parihasyam. Maybe some of you have had the experience, you go in Harinam, the devotees go in Harinam and people don't know what it is. And some people laugh. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's good. Parihasya Namabas. Very powerful. Stobham. Jokingly. Musical entertainment. Little sharing quickly. Once upon a time, I was a college student. And when I was in college, there was a musical on Broadway named Hair. Like as in hair. And it was a description of the counterculture era. And I didn't know what Hare Krishna was. I didn't know much of anything. But I was somehow attracted to that song. So I remember very clearly, used to go to the record room, which was on the 4th floor of the Norton Union, and checked out the Hair album and played that song over and over again. And it wasn't sung by devotees, it was like Broadway actor people. But I was attracted. And so that's in this category. It's just musical entertainment for Broadway people. And, they wore skull caps and, looked like devotees. I didn't see the Broadway show. I just was attracted to that sound. So, musical entertainment. It's a type of, it's not pure chanting. It's secondary chanting or shadow chanting, but it's very powerful. Or even neglectfully. That's one we're very familiar with. Attention is elsewhere. The mouth is going and the mind is somewhere else. Neglectfully. And that's very effective. It has the potency to free one from sinful reactions. That's what happened with that Ajamila, the sinful fellow that called his son's name and became freed from sinful reactions. In fact, even before that moment of death, he was calling the name of his son regularly, who he was attached to. He had feelings for. He had feelings for his son. So he was chanting with feeling, although it was unintentional. Questions at the end, okay? Okay. Here's another from Srimad Bhagavatam. Celebrated verse. Again, this is the 35,000-foot picture. Etan nirvidyamananam ichatam akuto bhayam. Bhayam means fear. O king, this is Shukadev speaking to the king Parikshit. Constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free of all material desires, those who are desireless of all material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. Harir, Nama, Anukirtanam. There's a commentary on this verse. I'm going to go quickly. I hope it's okay. Again, those of you that are newer, as you grow in your bhakti life, you'll become very familiar with these verses and they'll resonate with you. When you hear the sound of the verse, something will move inside. That's the effect of the Bhagavatam. And you can count on the fact that there are devotees in the room that are familiar with the Bhagavatam, something's moving inside, just by hearing. Sridhar Swami's commentary. There is no method more beneficial than singing the Lord's names, both for practitioners and for those who have already attained perfection. For those desiring material enjoyment, singing the Lord's names is the very best means by which their desires can be fulfilled. And those who seek liberation, this alone is the means of salvation, chanting. And for those who seek knowledge of the Absolute, this also has been determined as the goal. By saying that this has already been concluded, it indicates that there is no need for further evidence in this regard. Very important verse. Here's another spoken by Narada Muni, celebrated Vaishnav, explaining his life story to Vyas, previous life. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. Notice not just the names, but the pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. In so doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. One more. Again, we're still at 35,000 feet looking down at the landscape of the Bhagavatam, glorifying the name. Oh, this is celebrated another one. Oh, Bata Svapacho Togariyan, etc. Oh, how glorious are they, whose tongues are chanting your holy name, even if born in the families of dog-eaters. Such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities, and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed in the holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. Very good package, the name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expresses similarly or about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's 11th canto, chapter 2. By chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the personality of Godhead. As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries, or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. Now, this is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita from Lord Chaitanya's point of view. This is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll say it backwards. The essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is to come to this stage. There's compatibility between the two. So if you want to become better at your chanting, read Srimad Bhagavatam. And as you read Srimad Bhagavatam, it will support your chanting the holy name better. They're mutually compatible, like anything. Here's Krishna. And another celebrated verse, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. Attention is going to go to this Nija Sarva Shaktis. Those of you that are not new, or let's say it the other way, those of you that are new may not be familiar. This is the very first verse, the second verse, of Shikshastaka. What is Shikshastaka? Shikshastaka, Shiksha means instructions, Ashta means 8. So there's 8 instructions that Lord Chaitanya gave about chanting, and we're going to focus now on the Nija Sarva Shaktis phrase that you see highlighted. Here's the translation of that Shikshastaka 2. Oh, my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, Nija Sarva Shaktis, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. So the name, which is replete within the Bhagavatam, names of Krishna and Vishnu, are within the Bhagavatam again and again. And they're all invested with all of his. Nija means his own. Sarva Shaktis means potencies. It's all there in his name. So, hey, all we just need to do is chant. We don't need everything else, which is true. However, if the Maha Mantra is all potent and can award the whole spiritual world, what's the role of Srimad Bhagavatam? Just chant. So this is how one helps the other, just further supporting this morning's topic. Below, we see the source of this. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written some glorification of this Bhagavatam and the name. Arajo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Tadama Vrindavanam. Okay, so translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the son of Nanda Maharaj, is worshipable along with his transcendental abode, Vrindavan. The most pleasing form of worship for the Lord is that which was performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless authority on everything. That's in that red letters up top. Srimad Bhagavatam, pramanam amalam. Pramana means evidence or proof. The way to understand something, pramana, with full support, is the amala, spotless, topmost. Is the final authority in all of the Vedas. And pure love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life for all men. These statements, for which we have the highest regard, are the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here is an elaboration of this phrase, Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranam, Amalam. Puranam, Amalam. It's the spotless Purana. There's on the right, that's Vyasadeva speaking and then writing Srimad Bhagavatam, teaching to Shukadeva, who then further taught it to others. And in the course of disciplic succession, we find Lord Chaitanya himself, who is the deliverer of the holy name, sitting and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a painting, or it's a derivative of a painting commissioned by the king, who you see laying prostrated before the group. They're at a place in Jagannath Puri. Some of you have been to Jagannath Puri, and others will probably go one day. There's a place, Narendra Sarovar, nice place. Sarovar is means like a lake or a pond. And by the side of that pond, the Vaishnavas would come together and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. This is some appreciation. If you were the king and you wanted to commission an artist to make a painting about Lord Chaitanya, A, show him chanting Harinam with raised arms and kirtan, or B, show him by the side of Narendra Sarovar hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, just as we're hearing verses from the Bhagavatam, from Gadadhar Pandit. That was what the king did. Means they regularly did it. And it was heart-moving, so heart-moving to the king. That was the topic that was commissioned by the king to have painted. In the back, we see Lord Chaitanya with a shaved head, next to him with the blue dhoti. That's Lord Nityananda. And without going through it, all the other personalities are identified with Bengali text saying who they are. They're his intimate associates. And the fellow over there on the far right with the beard, that's Haridas Thakur. Here's another image, similar, different artist, different style, but the same principle. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam was done regularly. According to Chaitanya Bhagavat, Lord Chaitanya would hear daily from Gadadhar Pandit, and he particularly liked the sections, the story of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj, and heard them again and again hundreds of times. Srimad Bhagavatam was held very dear to Lord Chaitanya as a means of helping us get access to the holy name, the Yuga Dharma. This is a commentary. In the modern age, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached Srimad Bhagavatam by practical demonstration. It is easier to penetrate into the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam through the medium of Sri Chaitanya's causeless mercy. So how do you get the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya? You assist Lord Nityananda. in giving, receiving, and giving the message of bhakti. Then you get the mercy of Lord Nityananda, you get the mercy of Chaitanya. It will help you then understand the Bhagavatam and become attracted to the all attractive. Here's, so I'm sharing. This is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur giving two references in his writings about hearing the Bhagavatam or hearing the topics. Bengal has sprung from Lord Chaitanya's propaganda, Namiva Kevalam, misunderstanding of which has led to underemphasis of the importance of Shravanam. Clear? Kirtan is wonderful. Shravanam is wonderful. And underemphasis of Shravanam in favor of Kirtanam, uh, it's a misrepresentation of Harir Nameva Kevalam. Here's another way of saying the same thing. This is Bhakti Siddhanta writing or expressing that Hari Katha or Krishna Katha is the Swarup Shakti of the name. You ready? The image is nice. There's Vyasadeva writing the Bhagavatam, and over there on the left side, that's the holy name with Krishna at the center, or japa beads with Krishna at the center. Here's how it's expressed. Just as Krishna is properly worshipped not alone, but with his Swarup Shakti, Sri Radha, recitation of Harinam is incomplete and improper unless accompanied by hearing Harikatha. Nice quote, important understanding. We do both. They go together just as Radha and Krishna go together. Krishna alone, Radha Krishna. Hearing from the text of Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the most important This is purport, Prabhupada's writing. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of transcendental chanting of the holy name, and therefore the chanting and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam are transcendentally full of mellows. Nice photograph. Srila Prabhupada is reading his own books. It's described by those who were associating with Prabhupada, as busy as he was, he would sometimes ask somebody just to read, like you see, sitting, reading his writing. Prabhupada would listen. The devotees would get tired and Prabhupada would continue to listen and then comment that Krishna has written these books. I have not written these books. He was the instrument, like the pen is the instrument of the writer. Prabhupada was the instrument, nimitta, of Krishna. And through Prabhupada and through our predecessor acharyas, the descriptions of Krishna were provided. We're almost done. Shri Shri Radha Neela Madhava Ki. Some of you may recognize this painting. This is Krishna, who has come to visit the ashram of Vyasadeva and his good wife, because Vyasadeva and his good wife were expecting a child, but it was overdue by 16 years. And poor lady, she must have been really uncomfortable. I sometimes see pregnant women sitting there like moving like this and that because it's uncomfortable. 16 years, gosh. So Vyas went by foot all the way to Dwarka to invite Krishna, please come and promise my son, still in the womb of my mother, or my wife, that he'll be okay if he comes out. So Krishna promised, so he came out. Celebrated verse, again, for newer devotees, you don't recognize the verse. Mature devotees, it's a celebrated verse. Again and again. Atmarama verse, it's called. All different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma, or the spirit self, especially those established on the path of self realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means, this is the important part, this means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. So we can say, all you need is the chanting of the holy name. Who needs anything else? Which is true. But even those that don't need anything else, they're attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam. It's relishable and uplifting and beneficial for all, us and the perfected souls alike. Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, it's a little story. Every class is incomplete without a story, so here's a little story. Within a section of Padma Purana, there's a very large section called Bhagavat Mahatmya, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in that section, there's a description of Gokarna and Dundukari and the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the story goes like this, kind of like once upon a time. There was a Brahmana, and he lived by the side of the Tungabhadra River, a very celebrated sacred river in India, and he was married. And his name was Atmadeva, and his wife's name was Dunduli. The way the description goes, she was a little quarrelsome personality, but that was okay. He was, very tolerant. And in course of time, years passed, and there were no sons. So Atmadev was wanting to purify himself because perhaps if by achieving spiritual merit, he could have a son. So he went to the forest, he underwent austerities, and one sannyasi happened to come by where Atmadeva was. And he told the sannyasi his whole story and asked the sannyasi if he could do something to help him have a son. The sannyasi calculated his astrological chart and I don't know what to do. There's some devotees here that seem to be tired, and I'm talking too much. So what to do? I'll try to finish quickly. But stories are easy to listen to. Should be. And it's a nice story. So he went, the sannyasi did his chart, meditated on his chart, and said, "You're not going to have children for 7 lifetimes." And Atmadev said, "Oh, let me play my violin song. Please help me. Please do something." So the sannyasi gave him a fruit. It said, "You take this fruit back, give it to your wife, and if she eats this fruit and fasts for 1 year, she'll have a child." So Atmadev was really happy, and he went back and told his wife the good news. Here's the fruit. She liked the idea of having a child and taking the fruit. She didn't like the idea of fasting for 1 year. So she had a discussion with her younger sister. And her younger sister said, "No problem. I'm pregnant, and I'll give you my child." And you can say to others publicly, you can say, you lie. You can say, "You ate the fruit and now you're pregnant, and haribo." And so Dunduk, Dundubi, Dunduli liked the idea. The plan went. And just to check out what would happen with that fruit, they gave the fruit to a cow. Much to their surprise, after 3 months, a human child was born that had ears like a cow. So he was named Gokarna. Karna means ear, Go means cow. So they named him Gokarna. And Gokarna and the son of Dunduli's sister, uh, they treated each other like brothers. They were best of friends. They hung out together. They grew up together and really like close, really close. But they had very different personalities. Gokarna was a mode of goodness person, and his dear friend, his name was Dundukadi. He was the opposite, really bad, really bad, and so bad that both the mother and father, it's Atmadev, and the mother, Dunduli, they both, using our modern phrase, they were fried. He left and went to the forest, and his wife was too much disturbed by this child, so she ended her life jumping in a well. So that left this, naughty young boy that then later became a man and became a horrible person. He was living in the house that was left by his mother and father, and he became a thief and a bad guy, and hung around with prostitutes all the time. So the assistants of the king, they came to know his conduct. He was a thief and a bad guy. So they captured him, tied him up, and threw him into fire. Execution. And the soul and the subtle body of Dundukari didn't go anywhere right away. It hung around as a ghost. Now, his friend and kind of like brother, Gokarna, had been on a pilgrimage. And when he heard this happen, he came back and he decided to try to relieve the soul of his dear friend, Dundakari, from sinful reaction. So he went to a place in India called Gaya and did rituals for relieving the soul from sinful reactions, the departed soul. Shraddha, it's called. Didn't work. It was too sinful. And Dundakari, having this affinity for Gokarna, came around and bugged, like haunted, Gokarna. And Gokarna was an elevated person. He didn't become disturbed. He asked, "What is it that you want? You have some unfulfilled desires. What do you want?" "I want to become free from the sinful reactions from all my bad deeds." So he went to some priests and asked the priests, the Brahmins, what to do. And they said, "Worship the sun god." So he worshipped the sun god with austerities. He went to the forest and did austerities. The sun god came. And he said, "What can I want to relieve my dear friend Dundakari from sins." He said, "Here's what you should do. You should recite Srimad Bhagavatam from beginning to end. And at the end, he'll become freed from all his sinful reactions." So that's what Gokarna did. And he sat down with the plan that every day he would recite Srimad Bhagavatam. And the idea was it would take 7 days to recite the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, like it took 7 days from Shukadeva Goswami to recite the Bhagavatam. And Dundukari, because he was in this ghost body, he wanted to stay there, so he hid himself or concealed himself inside a bamboo pole that had 7 layers. And each day, as it passed, one layer fell off. And at the end of the seventh day, they saw the celestial being rise into the sky. And he called down, by your recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, I become liberated. And Gokarna said, well, what about everybody else that was hearing? How come they didn't get liberated? This is an important message. And he said, because they weren't listening so attentively. I was listening with rapt attention. And off he went. Liberated soul. And then the other people that were hearing the Bhagavatam that didn't get liberated, they said, can you do it again? We'll pay more attention this time. Padma Purana. And so he did. And at the end of the seventh day, the celestial Vimana, big celestial Vimana, descended and took everybody to the spiritual world. So, what about the rest of us that, can't hear so attentively or chant without offense? How does this apply to us? Well, Srimad Bhagavatam helps us come to deeper conviction and understanding about the name, and it awakens our attraction for Krishna. And boy, does Krishna look happy. This is a really nice place to go. A lot better than, downtown Houston, or even Gainesville, or any place else in this world. It's a nice place to go. Krishna is all attractive. A few other verses and we're done. From Canto 2, Chapter 2, those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with nectarian messages of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life, known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him, the personality of Godhead. There's the dark world over there on the left. There's the light of the Bhagavad up top. And it helps us redirect the polluted aim of life, just hearing. And purposely, there's a student there studying something. Again, Canto 2. Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and always are always taking the matter very seriously would have the personality of Godhead manifest in their hearts within a short time. Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. There's somebody reading, and there's Krishna and is manifesting in his heart. Here's some regular American folks here. One who, this is the last chapter of the Bhagavatam, one who, with undeviating attention, constantly recites this literature at every moment of every hour, as well who faithfully hears even one verse, or half a verse, or a single line, or even a half a line, certainly purifies himself. And the same happens with Harinam. Harinam cleanses envy, the root cause of all anarthas. That's the teaching of the holy name. I'm moving quickly, I hope you don't mind because of time. By chanting Krishna's holy name, one cleanses the dust from the mirror of one's consciousness. Prabhupada's words. There's the mirror, and there's Krishna, but there's dust. But that spray bottle there, the holy name, helps clear the dust from the mirror. She looks very happy. And Krishna looks very happy. I think I'm going to just go quickly. Nirmatsaranam satam. This is an important verse in line from Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number 2, and I'm not going to go into it because of time. Nirmatsaranam satam. These are the 6 Goswamis sitting together discussing topics of Krishna from the Bhagavatam, and those are the satam personalities, and they're nirmatsaranam. Their hearts are free from malice or envy. This holy name, this is the conclusion. Notice the image in the upper left, that's the mantra. Sri Nam purifies and allows one to enter deeper into Srimad Bhagavatam, and vice versa. Srimad Bhagavatam bestows deeper conviction in Sri Nam. That's the conclusion. So Prabhupada's phrase is there's two tracks for a train, and one of them is the chanting, cleansing the heart. The other track is guiding the activities of our life, the scripture, Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can travel clearly and directly on the bhakti path with both. And this is the last image. Srila Prabhupada paying obeisances before Radha London Ishwara. I offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. So it went a little longer than I was intending it to go, but that's the way it goes. So I'll end because of our time factor and look around the room and see if there's somebody who would like to discuss some part of this. Ah, yes, in the back. Thank you for your patience.
First of all, thanking you. Thank you for the wonderful class. My comment on this would be like this reiterates.
Louder.
This reiterates the fact that Bhagavatam and hearing, they are very important in devotional life. My question was around. So there was a slide which talked about even if one neglectfully chants Hare Krishna, they still get. They burn their unlimited sins, and it's very auspicious. And,
yes, it is.
And but we also have an offense in chanting, which that we shouldn't be inattentive while chanting. So
yes,
I was trying to
how do those two reconcile?
Yeah, I was trying to reconcile how both of them go together.
Sure. Shri Shri Radha Nilamadavaki. Simply, there's a lot that can be spoken, but simply that inattentive chanting is namabhas. And the effect of namabhas, or the other kinds, there's 4 kinds mentioned, it has the effect of relieving one of all sins. But it doesn't give the goal. Relieving one of sins is not the goal. What's the goal? Prema. So offense less gives prema. And this abhas chanting relieves one of sin, reaction of sin. That's the distinction, or the reconciling. So we're advised to avoid offenses because we want to reach the goal. Supposing we're not there yet, we're relieved of sins and reactions of sins from the preliminary stage of chanting. It makes it easier for us to reach the goal, but it doesn't guarantee the goal. Clear? Okay. Back there.
Hare Krishna, thank you for class. On that same verse, when we're speaking about the holy name eradicates all sin, even if you chant it offensively, how come people don't experience that when they chant maybe just once the holy name when we do Harinam, like a freedom from all sins in one sense?
Standard question. Here's a standard answer. My hero, Jiva Goswami, answers. It's because of anarthas in the heart. We discussed this the other day, and I'll repeat it. I'm happy to repeat it. It's important teaching. Because of anarthas in the heart, the potency is there in one name, but because of anarthas in the heart, it blocks that potency. Like clouds block the power of the sun. It's been cloudy the last few days, more than cloudy, rainy. So the light and the brightness of the sun is not shining through. Although the sun is shining fully, it's not coming to us because of the clouds in the sky. Similarly, because of anarthas in the heart, which have the power to block the power of bhakti. Very interesting, huh? Anarthas are very insidious. They don't go away so quickly. The power is there in one name, but anarthas in the heart, and we continue with that kind of chanting and that kind of hearing. And so it's gradual. So what to do about those things, those anarthas in the heart things? That's the next question. And that's called the stage of bhakti called the Nartana Vritti. And it connects with this question that he asked. The Nartana Vritti is where one is trying to overcome the inattentiveness when chanting. When you're trying to overcome the inattentiveness when chanting, the anarthas are reduced and eventually to nil. But you have to try to overcome inattentiveness, or say it negatively. Mechanical chanting isn't going to do it. Mechanical chanting is powerful, but it's not going to overcome the anarthas in the heart. You won't get the full effect. So what do you have to do? Strive. That was that rapt attention, hearing the Bhagavatam, and after people heard they have to do rapt attention, so they heard it again and they became purified. Is that clear? He has a follow-up question.
So that verse only applies to those who are pure, in a sense?
No,
don't have
the
anarthas?
potency is there for everybody. The experience of that, because your question was the experience. The experience of that potency is not accessible to us yet. Can it be? Yes. How? Strive to hear regularly or constant hearing, and then it's possible. That's the cultivation of bhakti. That's the definition we read the other day, 2 days ago. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. The definition is the cultivation of being with Krishna, being attentive to Krishna, being in our relationship with Krishna, striving, abhyasa. Okay? So it applies to everybody. Kalakanta.
Maharaj, so the potency is there to relieve all the sinful reactions, but because of anarthas, it's blocked. Is it blocked because the anarthas lead one to continue committing offenses and sinful activities?
If one is not in sadhu sangha and carefully moving towards that kind of lifestyle, then yes. And conversely, and does it apply to everyone question, if one carefully keeps sadhu sangha, meaning I want to become like that, the striving to become more elevated in my bhakti life, connected without the anarthas. I want to overcome those anarthas. It's your journey, as we discussed. It's not an event. It's a journey. And the event is the one time. It's possible, but it's very rare. It's possible, but it's very rare. And therefore we need sadhu sangha and cultivate carefully. Then it's possible for anyone. Anyone. Next. Right in the...
Hare Krishna. Just one more question. The question is around how does hearing complement kirtan?
How does hearing?
Yeah, the story that you told about Dhundukari, they just heard Bhagavatam and there was liberation, and they heard it like really nicely, but they didn't do any chanting or I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how do
But
they.
in the Bhagavatam, there's names. They were chanting, hearing and chanting from Shravanam. Shravanam, any one of the 9 processes. You follow? Chanting follows hearing, but hearing is the starting point. By hearing is sufficient. Does that answer your question? There's a question over here behind in the back.
Hare Krishna. In response to Vova's question, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that I was thinking of it was
Turn up the volume.
somebody who's not, who just hears the holy name and chants the holy name when we're out on Harinam, and they have no knowledge of what it means or whatever, they still get that benefit of
Yes.
Sinful reactions erased,
Yes.
but they don't have that, they don't feel like that's what happened, because in that moment, like, it's not that their sins are erased, they're going to continue to sin and
That's right.
get sinful reactions.
That's right.
And also, it's not the sin that's erased, it's the sinful reaction which will come in the future. So they might not, it's not like they have no bad karma anymore, it's just like, it's still gonna, it hasn't come yet to fruit
That's correct.
yet.
You've got it. You've got it. We're making free will choices moment by moment. And so you can wipe a slate clean and get dirty again, depending upon free will choices, moment by moment. So make nice choices, directed by the Bhagavatam. You have a question?
Yes, I did have a question. Rupa Goswami in the Namashtaka says that Nam Abbas gives one who's blind to the truth the vision to follow the path of pure bhakti. And I was wondering if you could clarify what that actually means.
What it actually means. It has to do, it's very similar. Does everyone understand the question? Yes, okay, good. It's very similar to the Bhagavatam statement, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janiyati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahaitakam. Jnanam Cha, knowledge arises from bhakti, meaning it's already there. Arises means it's already there, it's just slumbering. Time to get up. Okay, bhakti time. So knowledge arises. So same with the holy name. The capacity to understand what's in the Bhagavatam is given or imparted or awakened from the name, and vice versa. That's the whole point of the morning class. Yeah, Uttam Bhakta behind you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I have 2 questions. I've seen that there are very, very serious devotees who chant very seriously. They get up early in the morning, they chant in the evening. And then I have also observed that those same devotees, when they are, going from one place to another place, or they're probably, doing something, they're still chanting during the day. They're still chanting. And while they're chanting, they sometimes come across some other devotee. They start talking to him. They are chanting. Is that offensive chanting?
Why do you say that? Why are you asking that?
No, because the reason I'm asking, I'm just curious. The reason I'm asking is because we chant with attention, and those same devotees are doing wonderful chanting in the morning, in the evening. During the day, when they're doing other things, they are still chanting, and during that chanting, they sometimes talk if there is necessity, or what category is that chanting?
It's cultivation chanting. Cultivation chanting.
I see.
Because there is instruction that says, in order to overcome this anarthas, constant chanting. No, I'm not there yet that my constant chanting is Shuddha.
Mhm.
It's cultivation chanting.
Okay.
There's an instruction, I'm following the instruction, I have faith in the instruction. I want to get to Shuddha Nam. I'm not there yet. So it's cultivation chanting.
Okay. And that's okay.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
Well, take it the other way. Don't chant. Because you're not pure yet, Prabhu.
Well,
It's cultivation.
Okay.
Just stay with that.
Okay. The flip side of that question is this. When devotees chant in their private time, in the morning, in the evening, at home, or their chant temple, nobody is seeing them chanting because they're chanting in their private space and time. And when these same devotees, when they're walking around and they're chanting and they're doing a couple of other things, the other people are watching them and seeing them, and they think it's okay to chant like that.
Same answer.
Okay.
There is a stage of chanting without going into, well, there's nice detail of this. One of Srinivasacharya's disciples, no, his daughter, was inclined to constantly chant. Constantly chant. So it's a long story. She was at Radhakund, sitting, hearing a speaker speak Bhagavatam, and she was chanting. And he took offense. How can you listen to the Bhagavatam while you're chanting? And she said, I'm hearing, but my tongue won't stop chanting. And he insulted her. And that person fell down. Now, we're not at that stage that our tongue just moves because involuntarily the tongue moves with the chanting of the holy name. She was. So until you get there, you can chant. And so the persons that are observing such a person can understand. I know there's a god brother. I won't mention his name. Nice devotee. And he softly, he's attending a discussion and he's softly chanting. Now, how can he pay attention to the discussion on some subject while he's chanting? But he's cultivating. And I understand it's not Shuddhanam, but he's cultivating with faith. He wants to, at the time of death, we had this, I'll mention his name, Ushik, eccentric fellow. And he was constantly chanting. He would finish a sentence and it's Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Mm-hmm. And, can you pass the salt? Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama. he was really eccentric. And he died chanting the holy name. He was walking along the street and fell dead, but he was chanting. He had that faith. So,
yeah,
in these two cases, one is eccentric, the other is just like really devoted. They both had faith in the instruction, constant chanting. So it's understood, this cultivation category.
Yeah.
And we can understand that those two persons, when they're in their morning and evening exclusive focused chanting, it's not, it's with faith. Okay, your second question.
Yeah. The second question is, when we chant, we put our best intention, we put our best effort with the best environment. And so when we are chanting, this is definitely in the distraction category where the mind is going all over the place. That's definitely distraction.
Okay.
But then there is this when one is chanting, the mind automatically and naturally and spontaneously goes to Krishna's topics, like something Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or his pastimes,
got it.
naturally going there. Is
Got it.
that also distraction?
Depends what happens after that. You follow?
Yeah, means you bring it back to the holy name?
Yeah, it naturally comes back to the name. And
Yes.
that's not distracted. It's Krishna's prompting from within. Here's thought of me. Here's my reciprocation with your devotion for me. Here's thought of me.
I see. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
You have something? Up front and then back there, and I think we're going to end.
So just a question on the chanting again, kind of going off of his first question. If, say, a devotee is asking for help from somebody and someone says, oh, no, I can't help, I have to finish chanting, is that really getting over the anartas in the heart, or how does that work?
Well,
if someone's like too busy chanting to help someone out or something like this?
I'm looking at Kalakanta to make sure I get the link in with how he would like devotees to be guided. I can speak from my heart and experience, and it says it depends. And there are some cases where you stop everything, and somebody's in need, you stop everything. And there are some cases, depending upon you, depending upon your circumstance, depending upon the person and their circumstance, you can say, my dear friend or Prabhu or whatever, can I get to this later? Is it urgent? Or you may have a sense that it's not urgent. It's important, but not urgent. You know, so it depends. The time, place, circumstance. How you serve it takes intelligence. Now, I want to be of service to others. That's the heart. And then it requires intelligence to guide the heart. That's buddhi. And that Krishna should be pleased. So now there's my chanting and there's this person needs help, which is, I want both, and that Krishna should be pleased. So, you know, it takes intelligence. The Super Soul gives it. Time, place, circumstance kind of intelligence. So most important of all, step back from the question, most important of all is, in my heart, do I want to please Krishna? In response to your question, there's a devotee I know that has this phrase, the rescuer mentality. I'm going to save this person. The doership mentality is nobody is saying. They've got a problem, I'm going to fix their problem. So I'm not saying that you think like that, but some people think like that. And that's something to be guarded against. And then when you're guarding against it, you certainly want to do something, but then how and when, there's details. And you get to it at the right time, in the right way, in the right mood, and when you're not offending Krishna, you're not offending the other person. Because service to Krishna is the issue. Okay? More.
Just kind of going off of that. So does one take precedence over the other, or is it just kind of situational in that sense?
It takes some discretion. There's not a fixed rule. You know, I'm committed to chant X number of rounds every day. That's my vrata. I'm going to do that. And I know that my quality chanting is best during the early morning. So, I mean, what I do is I shut my phone off. If somebody has an urgent problem, they're not going to reach me. Now, that's a priority for me, because I'll be able to better serve others if I'm focused on Krishna properly than if I don't and attend to this and that. Because I know people, because they've shared it with me, you know, I'm chanting, I'm looking at my phone. Their mind is, it's not even they got text messages or something. It's just their mind is distracted by that little device. So everything depends. Your question is it a priority? Is there this or that is more important? They're both important. And keeping your attention upon Krishna is the essence. Now, personally, I feel, this is my lifestyle, I like to chant with as fixed attention as possible, which isn't easy. And I'll be there to serve people. My life is like that, but at the right time. It's a bit, it's a time management question, and if it is urgent, people will know how to reach me, even if my phone shut off. If it's urgent, I'm going to deal with it, and if it's not urgent, so the priority is Krishna should be pleased. It depends.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. We have Kalakanta raising his hand, and this lady in the back with the blue sweatshirt. Yes.
All right, well, Maharaj, you were mentioning how Ajamil fell from his elevated devotional stage.
I was mentioning what?
How Ajamil fell from his elevated devotional stage. Ajamil.
Ajamila did what?
He fell from his...
He fell down.
Because of bad association.
Bad association.
And my question was, how can we be strongly fixed and make better choices from the beginning of our process so we don't fall like him?
How can we protect ourselves from bad association, is your question?
And make better choices from the beginning of our process so we don't fall.
I'm half deaf, and young people speak really fast, and it's not a good combination.
Yeah, okay.
Say it slower. Take your mask down. Say it slower. Be kind upon me.
Okay.
I don't walk with a cane, but
How can we strongly be fixed in our devotional process from the beginning so we can prevent ourselves from falling like him?
How can we make protection? What can we do today to prevent falling down tomorrow? What are those measures we can take? That's your question.
Yes.
Very good question. Very important question. Well, the top of the list is Sadhu Sangha. And if you want to read more about it, Canto 3, Chapter 25, that's Devahuti's question to Kapila. And the answer is Sadhu Sangha. And then there's 8 verses. I learned this from Dravida Prabhu. There's 8 verses in that chapter. He called it Sadhu Sangastaka. 8 verses that speak about who's a sadhu and how do you take there. So what happens when you do it properly and so on. So that's the best protection. It's like the bundle of sticks example, Aesop's fable. So stay in close association with sadhus. And sadhus means wholesome, not just somebody who's got a tilak and neck beads, but somebody that's their character is sadhu-like. Sadhu means devotee. They've taken shelter of spiritual potency, wanting to. So keep association with such persons. That's protection. And with that comes all the things that sadhus do. You do the things with sadhus that sadhus do. So, etc. And then, second, from the sadhus, you'll hear about offenses, and you guard against them. So, like for example, vilifying devotees. And I could, the internet is a great place to go for vilification. There's no accountability. People go nuts, vilifying left and right. So beware of toxicity like that, and so guard against offenses. Know what they are, guard against them. Stay in the middle of the road, and don't go into the ditch left or right. and stay in devotee association. Have a really close friend that will tap you on the shoulder when they see you've got a blind spot and you're heading for the ditch. And be open. Don't like, what are you saying? Be open to get feedback, especially from those that know you. They're well-wishers and they're confidential. Those three qualities. And have close association like that. It can be peer, it can be those older, or combination. But have such people in your life. Because when you're not attentive, it's like, you're driving and you're being inattentive. Maybe drowsing. Wake up. Jeev jago, jeev jago. Wake up, soul. So, those are some things. The general, like, a nice incubation chamber of sadhu sangha. Know what deviation looks like and guard against it. And have some very close friends, at least one, and a superior, a mentor or guide or someone, and a dear friend. Because the dear friend will see you up close, where someone that's guiding you will only hear indirectly if Krishna sends that information. So very close friends that are really wholesome people. Those are guards. Kalakanta has some last word here. A thumbs up. Oh, okay. Radha Krishna, anything from you? Your sage? Thumbs up. Two thumbs. Okay. Hey, it's time to end. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.